I find myself in the waves of change. And the lesson I'm learning right now is how to have the patience to let the old ways erode. What's good, everyone? It's DJ Devontae J. It's been a little while since I've updated the channel, and I just recently hit a pretty significant milestone in my time here in Raleigh. It has been now just over 6 months since I moved away from New York and away from everything I knew to live with my family that I've been estranged with from a long time. And I'm not going to be able to quantify and fit everything into this video, but this right here, me talking to the camera and me putting it out, is really just more of something I need to do for myself to know that I'm not giving up on this dream of being able to make a living and do it through creating and sharing the message and being myself. I think that's really the goal I've always had, is like, how could I make a living contributing to the world in the best way that I can in my own unique way. And I think that's what motivates me to keep trying. At this point right now, I am 27 going on 28, still living at home with my parents, or at least, so you know, my dad and my stepmom. And you know, it's kind of like, I want to make this for people who are still kind of struggling with this idea that they're not where they should be right now. I think about that every single day. I tell you, every single day I think about it. You know, whether it be like romantically, financially, career-wise, socially, creatively, really in any domain, spiritually even too. In all those things, I really understand. And like, now that I've been here for 6 months now, the amount of things that have happened to me in just a short time has kind of shown me, you know, even despite not being in, I would say, as dire or in unstable circumstances as I was previously, in a weird kind of irony, I've realized that despite that kind of like how limiting it was being where I was at before. I mean, I don't know if I've explained this in fully, but you know, I was living with my mom, who's disabled, been on Section 8, limited hours able to work, limited freedom, no car, no super close friends in the area. I had started to get more familiar with the community over that time, but since I had graduated college it's almost been like, it's like 5 months from now, it's gonna be like 5 years. And since that time, I have really struggled in just feeling like my life is really moving in a direction, going somewhere, at least in a tangible way, right? And what I've learned in that time, since being here now, is that despite that kind of instability that was almost chronic in a sense, it was more familiar to me and ironically stable for me because of being used to keeping myself so small, despite having big dreams and wanting to grow and expand. Not having that space, I had adapted to keeping myself down in a way to avoid this kind of loop of getting hope and being let down, or just feeling like, you know, that I was almost there but not quite. There have been a lot of things that have happened, like in the recent months. Some crazy things happened to me. Like, I had to pay money for a water pump for the car that I bought when I first got here. And then about maybe a month and a half ago, or maybe 2 months ago, let me think. No, like, it was probably about a month ago, actually. My car that I knew was having problems already decided to have a more serious issue where my wheel seized up when I was trying to back out of a parking lot. And so I knew that there was an issue with the steering rack, but I knew at that point that it was not even safe to drive it anymore. And so I'd already spent money, like probably about $8,000 on the car, including the water pump, maybe $8,500 to $9,000, and I already had to get rid of it. And that was just a really taxing thing to me. This kind of experience, and just like talking about it, it's kind of ridiculous to me to think about like the kind of bad luck that happened with that. And one thing I noticed is that despite like all the bad luck that I had with that first car, and these emergency circumstances when I was getting out of a heavy therapy session, and I realized like, oh, now my car has a real issue that I can't ignore. And I managed to get back home safely, thank the Lord. But at that point, something had to change, and I knew I needed a new car. And in that process of going from the old vehicle to the new one, I was able to realize how much of a blessing this new car is. Now I'm rocking a 2019 Toyota Camry. You know, been wanted a Camry at the stop. I'm gonna have to cut that out, but check this out: new wheels, new all of that stuff. She's a nice, beautiful Galactic Aqua. About $20,000 for a 5-year-old car that even had less than 55,000 miles when I got it. It's just now over 55,000 about, and I've realized just in that time, the process of getting the car was incredibly smooth. You know, there were a lot of moments where I realized that life had been kind of oscillating between something extremely negative and unfortunate leading into something that was a great blessing. And even just in that time, you know, that same month I was building my computer, my new computer that I'm going to be using for videos, making art, my design, and my content. I'm investing in myself in that way. And now I know that even in that circumstance, I built it, you know, over the course of a couple weeks. I put that together. It's my second rig that I put together. And in the next 2 weeks after that, I struggled intensely to get Windows on that computer. It felt like hell on earth, honestly, just trying to troubleshoot and deal with that. You know, I'd made a few mistakes in the installation process, and I had tried so many different things. I had tried command prompts, I had tried disk management, I had tried using the terminal, I had switched to a different flash drive and all that stuff. And the one thing that worked is my dad had gotten me an external drive to use, and I tried to do a clean slate, full installation. I prayed to Jesus that I'm telling you, I'm serious. I prayed a prayer where I was like, hey, you know, I really want this to work. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm out of options. You know, I might have to spend money on trying to get a PC shop or a repair shop to help me figure it out. But I prayed a genuine prayer, and I leave and I go watch a show with my dad, and I come back and Windows is open running. There are amazing things that can happen when you push through the hopelessness, or those moments where you're like, why is this happening? Why am I'm losing all my money. I gotta get a new car, and you know, just basically shoot my savings in the foot because I need to get something that's reliable. And even though I went through all that, and I did have to pay for that, and I'm still paying for it, I now have an amazingly reliable car, great coverage through Toyota, and in the case of my PC, I have a new powerful machine that I've been using. And in those two different circumstances, even in that tight window, it has been just this oscillation back and forth of feeling completely unsure, hopeless, like I'm too late, like I'm not successful enough, like I'm a failure as a man or as a son or something else. You know, I've spent a lot of my life putting in work for a delayed gratification where like I felt that delay, but I did not get the gratification. This happened with dance, kind of happened with college in a way. It's kind of happened with my right now in my career. That's kind of what it feels like at the same time. It's happened with romance. It's happened with a lot of different things. And, you know, people might look at me and they might see something else and they don't really know who I am. But, you know, I'm in this space right now where I have felt more alone than almost ever in a very unique way. You know, there's distance between me and everybody who has known me for more than like a year. I'm in proximity to a family who I love, but who, like I said, doesn't really know me. We just haven't had that time together where we experienced each other for a prolonged period of time and grew up in that system together. I didn't have that. I didn't have that with any of my siblings at all. And it's been, you know, I was used to feeling lonely, but I had an idea of who I was based on this model of this person that I used to help me survive in the situation I was in. That don't work here. that don't work here at all. And now that I have this freedom, I realize that, like, you know, there's those story of like what they say that they would put crickets in containers that were increasingly small, where the ceiling was being lowered over time, and eventually they would have these crickets in a small container, and then when they took the lid of the container off, the crickets didn't jump out because they believed that they were limited, because they had learned over time that anytime they try to jump over, they get knocked back down. And and I was like that, and in a way mentally I still am, but right now this situation is, oh, you gotta learn that you can still jump out. The lid's been removed, but it's having the courage to jump again. And I think I've been building that a lot in subtle ways, in different ways, where, you know, old patterns are not as strong, but they still have their moments where they grip me, you know. But I can recognize them faster. I can get out of them easier, and I don't spiral as long, or maybe even at all sometimes. On the other hand, you know, there's that dip where, you know, even just 30 minutes ago, I was thinking like, man, you know, I see these creators out here, they're doing these things. I don't know, I'm trying to learn. I need to, you know, get better at my routine. I need to start meal prepping. I've been trying to work on my fitness and eat more food. And all of these things that I'm doing still have this like delay, you know. And the real challenge I've been facing in this season right now is I realize, like, I gotta take that leap of faith, and not just in like how I put it a couple videos ago when I first got in here, and I said, you know what, I took this leap to come down here to North Carolina to figure this out and to experience this and maybe get some connection, and hopefully through that some healing and finding another part of myself, like who I could be when I do have this connection with my dad that I didn't before. You know, who is that DJ? I don't know him. I still don't know him, but I'm getting to know him, and that is both really exciting and terrifying because I've spent so long limiting myself. But at the same time, I had this sign in my spirit that I knew that I could do great things, that I was set up, you know, with the way my story is, the way my interests line up, the passion that I have to create things that are valuable and meaningful to people. And I don't know how many people are gonna be finding value from this, because I'm really just yapping right now. In my head right now, I'm thinking like, oh, there's so much I could do to make this video better for the algorithm. But at this moment in time right now, it's about me showing up for myself. And I think, just like that cricket, I gotta take that leap and jump again. And I gotta keep jumping and seeing how high it can go. So I don't know how many people kind of relate to this. Let me know if you do. There's a lot more that I could say that I don't want to overwhelm this, right? But there's essentially what I'm feeling right now is the messy middle of change. Where like the old me is dying. And I don't know what part of him is going to remain. And the new me is still not solid. He's forming. I don't know him very well. I don't know what he's going to be like. I don't know how he's going to move day to day. And there's all of this is flux. This is a liminal space. And I'm terrified because I felt like I've spent so much time enduring and surviving, but now I need to live so I can find a way to thrive. And I think for people who have dealt with a good amount of trauma in their lives for a prolonged period of time and been in these situations where in a lot of ways the situation was hopeless because they didn't have the agency maybe at the time to change things, or they didn't know the way out, or the safest thing was to just to endure and stick through it. Everything I'm doing right now, I feel so messy. I feel so messy right now. And as much as I want to be at the other spot, I know that there's a lot of beauty here in this part. And I'm telling myself that I'm going to make it. I'm going to get to, 300,000, 500,000. We'll start with, 1,000 and whatnot. We'll get those subs up there. But, who knows? Maybe I could get 1 million. I could. I think I have the potential to make content that nobody has ever seen before. I mean, nothing's quite new under the sun, but the way that things are brewing in my mind right now, it's like I can see just this like something that is very unique. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. But I'm gonna do it. Because the one thing I've known about myself this whole time, whether it was when I was down and out, when I was struggling, when I'm struggling now, when I'm just trying to make myself feel like any semblance of a strong man with purpose, I know that there's more to life and it can always get better. And that I have the story, the tools, the capacity, and I'm starting to believe the courage to really do something different. Not just for me, but for other people who are in that situation, because I know so many people are going through that right now. Life is real tough at this moment in time, and it's only going to get tougher. I'm keeping my faith, whether it's just me alone or whatnot. I'm keeping my faith. I'm keeping my wits about me. I'm doing my best to curve the old things, but admittedly I'm not doing too great in that too. I've been struggling with my old habits because I'm still learning to die to the old me, I don't think change is supposed to be clean. It's like, you look at how things happen in nature, it's not like that. Things die, things decay, things get sick, things get broken, things get bent. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do all those things in a very literal sense. But for something to change, you know, if something's going to change, something needs to change. You feel me? You know? You need a different input to get a different output. And I'm telling myself as much as anyone else right now. But mainly I'm speaking to me right now because I know I need to hear that it's not hopeless. If I can find the hope to hold on in a worse situation, I know that at some point I can get the courage to spread my wings and really start to live life for that joy of what I could do and the things I could make and the people I could meet and the minds I could change, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I'm not going anywhere. Even if it's a little while before, but I'm gonna be more consistent about this, at least in like the monthly sense. Or, you know, videos might be talking car videos, but I am determined to not give up, because honestly, the alternatives, I don't see another path for me in terms of like, basically what I'm saying is I have the dream in my mind a little bit. I daydream about who I could be, and it's not always a full form, and it's not always solidified in something that feels tangible or easy to explain, or that, you know, can be even articulated in a way that might, you know, get the message across. I guess I kind of said the same thing there. But I can't give up on that. I can't give up on myself. I'm not going to do that anymore. As much as, you know, maybe I'm used to throwing in the towel for who I could be, I'm not going to do that anymore. I've been holding on to it for a long time. But now, instead of just enduring, I got to walk forward. And I got to keep doing that. And the doubt is loud as ever. But at the same time, I've never been so free. Thanks for watching.